Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Red Path. My name is Brian, and I'm joined by Josie. And today is the first day that World Leaders have received any news on 11th edition. Now, as the time of recording, we just had an article drop detailing our turn, which I'm actually surprised we were early. Usually, we're usually we're one of the last armies looked at for stuff like this. But we have exciting new three one-point detachments, presumably for our army to mix and match and combine with our army. I'm pretty excited. Josie, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah, it's been really exciting getting this faction focus. I think I've given it a little bit of time to sort of calm down. The initial reactions will be a little bit muted, but the ideas are starting to bubble up, and I think there's a lot we can get done with this.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and start off by saying, with the detachment system that they have coming, right? There's two different ways you can look at these detachment points, right? We have, which I would actually expect for our detachment points more so than pretty much most other armies, is they're either going to be completely transformative to your play style, where they're going to elevate a style of play within your army that isn't necessarily popular and just enhance that and make it a just separate avenue that you can take an army and run with it. Now, in situations like that, which I would say that our detachments are individually more powerful than the average ones, which we'll get into them.
Yes.
But that doesn't necessarily mean they're broken because we're talking about making something that's not necessarily powerful and giving it legs to become on the par with something like Berserker Warband, which is almost definitely going to be 3 points, right? Whereas you have something like, I don't know, the Custodian detachments, or something that came out like that, where Custodians doesn't really have any unplayed playstyles. Their detachments do kind of seem a little lackluster, but that's because they're going to be directly power spiking what they're already doing, which may lead to that being way more impactful, which isn't a bad thing, isn't a good thing. Same thing for our detachments, isn't a bad thing, isn't a good thing. And definitely for world leaders, we need more list diversity. So,
Yes.
without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll get right into it.
Yeah.
So,
So here we are with the faction focus. It looks like it's going to be pretty standard. We've seen the sort of the format now for these faction focuses. They always open with the video. The video in this case didn't add too much. We'll mention any little additions that the video made when we get down to that point as well. But we're opening up with Brazen Engines, which is the one that we were all sort of told to expect. It was revealed back at Adepticon that we were going to have a demon engine based attachment. And it's really exciting, I think, some of the rules around it.
yeah, and you can tell right away this one's meant for Josie. I mean, there's a pile of jackals everywhere, and there's Josie's personal Lord of Skulls in the middle of the table.
Yep.
And you can all safely assume, like I said, in the video, they did mention that there was going to be a a 3-pointer detachment in our codex. $20 to whoever can guess which one it is. So, like I said, some of these detachments, and I think Brazen Engines is going to be a good example of it once we start going through the rules, could be potentially used to enhance detachments that already aren't seeing an incredible amount of play. Now, I'm not saying that the jackals are alluding to Cult of Blood, but if I was going to use a specific detachment with Cult of Blood and want to get a lot of mileage out of it, Brazen Engines might be it. You're gonna have a Khorne Lord of Skulls in the middle of the table. Who doesn't love Khorne Lord of Skulls with more rules attached to it, right?
Exactly.
So, getting into the specifics, we have all three detachment rules in here. Rampaging Terrors. Friendly demon vehicle units, which is the Mauler Fiend, Forge Fiend, Hell, or not Hellbrute, importantly, not the Hellbrute. It's not a demon. Khorne Lord of Skulls and Defiler. I don't think I'm missing anything. We really don't have
The
that
Hell
many.
Drake exists.
Oh, my bad. I'm gonna get yelled at for that one. Terror of Khorne. At the start of the fight phase, both fight phases, select one
Yes.
unit engaged with this unit. That enemy must make a battle shock check with -1 to that roll. You cannot select the same unit multiple times. And unfortunately, this detachment has the onslaught tag, which means it cannot be taken with another onslaught detachment. We all know what that's referencing. Boo. But
Yeah, it's a big shame.
you know what? I'll go ahead and say it. I don't think this is Gortrek Onslaught that it's referencing pretty blatantly. Um, Core Track Onslaught already has like probably only one strat that Demon Engines would care about, which
Yep.
would be the reactive move after getting shot. So like there already was a little bit of a non-bow between these two. It's a shame you can't mix them, but I don't really think you're missing out on that much. Um, what are the implications of the Battle Shock Josies?
So the Battle Shock is a big one. We have already seen, if you've been keeping an eye on the faction focuses, that Battle Shock now doesn't go away, which is it's just a massive deal in general. It means that if you Battle Shock, generally speaking, any rules in 10th edition that Battle Shock to your opponent in your turn, especially in the fight phase, they were hot trash.
Yep.
You would get one phase of impact at most, and then they're just on Battle Shock in their command phase, and you've not accomplished anything. You're not flipping objectives. You're not really threatening anything. Now, Battle Shocks don't go away. They have to pass a Battle Shock test in the command phase to become unbattle shocked. And of course, it's still likely that units of a 7-up leadership will pass those tests eventually. Especially if you're making them take one in the fight phase, one in the command phase, there's something like a 70-80% chance they'll get unbattle shocked by the time their command phase rolls around. But there is that chance that they won't, which is huge. And it working in both fight phases is also just, generally speaking, amazing. Your opponent is going to want to charge a demon engine to do something useful. It's going to be to bring it down, maybe, or to flip an objective, or do anything like that. And there's lots of units that rely on strats in the first place to have the power to punch up into a vehicle. And even if they don't, lots of the time you might just have more than one unit on an objective. If they charge you with one thing, that thing becomes battle shocked. Oh no, they've killed my Mauler Fiend. But you know what's holding the objective? The 10 jackals standing behind it.
Yep. And
It's a massive deal. It'll turn off so many of your opponent plans, and it means they're going to have to consider double committing or over committing in general into a demon engine just to do anything. And world eaters love it when an opponent has
yep,
to overcommit in melee. That's
please put more stuff in
huge.
the middle of the table, right?
Yes.
And the other thing is like any of us that have had the experience of playing against something like Dante, uh, turning off Armor of Contempt, turning off interrupts, turning off all of those extra strats. So many secondaries are tied to like area denial and storm hostile objective and tempting target. Almost assuredly, we're going to have different secondaries, but I'm willing to bet a lot of them are going to say do something with an unbattle shocked unit. Being battle shocked will just ruin somebody's plans in the middle of their turn, and you'd be surprised how much it comes up. You can't plan for it to happen, but it will happen, and your opponent will lose points because of it.
Yes.
Um, and
And
the
the
minus,
-1, I think it buffs most of the odds to being above half for failing a test,
yes.
which is a point where your opponent has to genuinely really consider that it's likely they will fail.
Yep. And then for each of these detachments, they've showed us one strat and one enhancement. The first enhancement, which is a spicy one,
Oh, yes.
Talons of Butchery, Mauler Fiend unit only. This unit's Mauler Fiend fists have Cleave 2. So I'm just gonna say it. That's sick. We have Blast and Melee. There's no
Oh,
other way to interpret this. I
it's
could.
so cool.
The rule for Cleave is like this long. For every 5 models in that squad, you get that Cleave value of extra attacks. I will say it's a little bit of a non-bow with the Mauler Fiend. Because the Mauler Fiend has what? If you're below starting strength, it's +1 to hit, which means you're encouraged going into the fight to knock them below starting strength, which means you could lose out on your blast. So you got to ask yourself, is the tank shock worth it, or do you want your cleave 2? Or is shooting your melta guns at that target worth it, or do you want your cleave 2? Which can be a little annoying sometimes. Like there's like a rhino, or I guess or you wouldn't cleave 2 into rhino, you'd shoot it all day. That's a bad example. But there's gonna be a few situations like I don't know, Victor's Guard, where like you're like, do I tank shock that, or do I just punch it, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely. But I think Cleave 2 is still just
stop
incredible. It
it.
means it stops a Molotov from getting bogged down. Like, we've not run Molotov very much this edition, but one of the big issues that a Molotov has is the fact that if something like 10 guardsmen runs into a Molotov, it is stuck there for probably,
1 to 2
certainly
turns.
their
Yeah.
turn, and probably your turn as well, if it doesn't get away without being dug out by something else.
But I mean, the
Now it
Malifine has
will.
8 attacks, right? So, like, if you charge a 20-man squad, you get 16 attacks. I might be wrong on the attack count. It's been a while since I've looked at the data sheet. But regardless, it's a sick enhancement. I would see you. Malifine is obviously, I mean, it says Malifine unit only, but if you're playing this detachment and you want this enhancement, there's a good argument for just playing 3 Malifines and slapping it in. Which we'll get into it once we get to the strat that they show us. A plop Apoplectic Clarity, which is the shooting phase or fight phase. So they remembered that we have one of those phases. You get to basically ignore all modifiers to hit wound and your ballistic skill and your weapon skill, which is very useful considering that cover is now -1 to hit. So
Yes.
your Forge Fiends now get to hit on fours, and they get to ignore that pesky -1 to wound that Victrix Guard have, which actually turns them into a very efficient unit at killing stuff like Victrix Guard, putting them on 5-up saves, hitting on fours, full rerolls to hit, wounding on twos, right? And all of this to say that this detachment is just frankly good. I think this is just a solid, good detachment. Obviously, you're not going to be playing with Warband because you can't. I don't really think Gortrak gets much from it. I think Gortrak's main plan was to already stay in its rhinos. I mean, it can play some Demon Edge on the side, but like
It can.
I think there's another detachment we're going to talk about that's probably more likely to be the contender.
I
But
think so, yeah.
Khorne Demonkin loves this. I'll just say Khorne Demonkin loves this. They were already playing multiples of Forge Fiends, right? And Forge Fiends being able to ignore mods. Forge Fiends didn't benefit from Blessings of Khorne at all, but being able to go 1 CP, I'm going to ignore all of the mods so I can kill that thing over there so I can guarantee spawn bloodletters over there. It's actually a big deal for something like Khorne Demonkin. And then there's tons of strat support within KDK for the Mauler Fiends, being able to give them Lance Twin Linked. Um, yep, Lance Twin Linked with Cleave too, right? That can get really disgusting really quickly. I would say that that's a good option for this as well. Of course, there is Cult of Blood.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. And Cult of Blood. I mean, for any of these, you can always run Cult of Blood because Cult of Blood, the sort of the core stuff for that is about 1,000 points. So you can jam in another detachment of whatever you like. Generally speaking, you're looking at a bunch of Jackals, a Demon Prince, and then Source. And that Source can be Demon Engines. It can also be either of the other two detachments that we've seen, that we're about to see in this faction focus.
yeah, but I could absolutely see 3 Mauler Fiends and 2 Forge Fiends just slammed into a Khorne Demonkin list.
100%.
Next up, we have Butchers of Khorne. For all of you Red Butcher lovers out there, there's tons of hopium and copium out there because they mentioned that, what I think it says in the article that Red Butchers, they aren't quite Red Butchers yet. Hopefully we get Red Butchers and hopefully they resemble on a data sheet what this detachment does. But it's sick that we're getting Terminator love because that is the one problem World Eaters have had from a design perspective is that we have Little Berserker, Berserker, and Big Berserker Senior as far as infantry choices. And then we had Terminators off to the side, which weren't even included in that equation because they were just kind of slow. They didn't really do that much damage comparatively, and durability is kind of a myth in this edition. So looking at Terminators now, we have a detachment focused purely around them. So let's get into it. At the start of the fight phase, if a friendly Terminator squad is engaged, just make another Blessings of Khorne roll, and you get another blessing. Just that. That's it. So just no biggie. Just have lethal sustained dev Terminators running around the table. Just a vomit of keywords, which is actually really nice because you can
Yes.
whiff. Like even if you go, I really wanted sustained hits, lethal hits, but I only rolled enough for sustained and just a little bit bad on your Blessings of Khorne, so I guess I'll take Pile and Consolidate 6, right? Well, you get another shot at getting your lethal hit, so it makes the Terminator squads pretty consistent at getting the damage buffs they need.
Yeah, that's great.
Uh,
And this is worth noting, this is also at the start of the fight phase. This is both fight phases.
mhm.
And it just applies for the remainder of that fight phase. So it means basically, if you're taking Terminators, if you're being charged by your opponent, you can essentially always have Fight on Death access, as long as you roll that extra blessing when you get charged. Your opponent will never be able to charge Terminators without you having Fight on Death up, and it means that in your turn, you can just take offensive blessings because you can always just take the defensive stuff anyway, as and when you get attacked.
Yep. So there's a ton of like big brain like workarounds here where like that was a big thing that we used to do in Index where we would charge, kill something, pay CP, roll the 8 dice, grab our Feel No Pain, right? We go, here's sustained hits, advance and charge. Cool, I got my Feel No Pain, right? Same thing here is you can go charge in and be like, here's my offensive buffs. I mean, the Bite on Death's pretty auto too. It's pretty auto to get. You can say, if you charge me, I got my defensive buff up, right? So it's pretty straightforward, the implications for this, and it's that they want Terminators to actually do damage and actually have relevant rules. Now let's see what else they give the Terminators. We have an enhancement for this unit's melee attacks have +1 to hit weapon skill modifier. So your Terminators are hitting on twos, and they have an extra damage increase from already having lethal sustained and potentially dev, as they mentioned in the article. So Terminator's damage is going through the roof, which they kind of have to if you're going to take them out of Berserker Warband. You have to give them something else back. And that was the number one thing we were saying when the Codex was going to come out, is if they were going to keep Berserker Warband the way it is, they have to give damage to the other detachments in some way. So GW is seeing that, and they're giving the Terminator model access to more damage.
Absolutely. I do also like that at this point you're getting into the range where you don't mind taking chain fists, for example, because chain fists are weapon skill 4. Terminators should never be weapon skill 4. I hate this. And making them weapon skill 3 with still access to potentially 8 bound nearby to make them hit on actually 2s means that you can genuinely look at taking those anti-tank, anti-big stuff weapons on your Terminators, and that gives them a niche that actually they didn't really have previously because you couldn't rely on chain fists.
Hmm. And speaking of relying on damage output, now when a Terminator squad is selected to fight, if it's into a monster vehicle, you have +1 to wound. So that's
So
pretty
good.
sick. I will go ahead and say that like that means you can walk up to a knight and say, "I'm wounding you on fours. Here's a pile of attacks with sustained hits, lethal hits." And if that's the Terminator squad that's +1 to hit, you can probably pretty reliably bring something big down with a 10-man Terminator squad, which is not something that they were capable of doing. Now, all of these attachments are likely to have another enhancement and more strats, so we'll have to wait and see what that does. But the obvious combos, which James isn't here to talk about, the obvious combos are, in my opinion, Grundymakin, right?
Yes.
As I mentioned earlier, and one thing to keep track of is that we can now no longer multi-strat on one unit in one phase, right? There is no smoke AOC. All of KDK's strats key off of demons to affect mortals or mortals to affect demons. So the strat you use for Lance Twin Linked, assuming you have unlocked the Lance buff, triggers off of targeting a Bloodletter. So you can go, yeah, I'm going to be lethal sustain dev on my +1 to hit Terminator squad, and I'm going to pay a CP for +1 to wound. Or I guess you wouldn't do that because you're going to be Lance Twin Linked, and you're going to have what, 6 buffs up on the squad? Like, what
It's
are we
tough time.
talking about? That's insane. That's insane. And we're talking Twin Linked dev wounds. That can get out of hand pretty quickly. Dev wounds into infantry, but that can get out of hand pretty quickly, especially even when you're down to like 3 or 4 Terminators. Like that is still a lot to be throwing at somebody.
Absolutely.
And it is going to be very common. And they did mention in the video that this detachment, I did say there's multiple strats. They did mention in this video that there's access to -1 damage in some
Yep, they did
form.
say that would be 2 CP, and it'll be in your opponent's shooting phase, but I mean, -1 damage in shooting is everything a 3 wound Terminator needs. All of the best Terminators in the game have access to -1 damage. This pushes the World Eaters Terminators into that bracket. Probably still not some of the best ones in the game, but certainly pushing up towards that level.
And what I like is a concept of what they're doing in build. Like there are things like we wouldn't typically play a Demon Prince on foot in Khorne Demonkin because all of the strats keyed off Khorne Demons. Big miss from GW in my opinion is they only made the World Leader Demon Prince able to target World Leaders and not demons. So now this gives you something else to have in the middle of the table because you still have to take 1,000 points of World Leaders in the KDK list. Like, and you want it to have good rule support, and now you can, right? Before it used to just feel like you're just taking the obligatory Karn +10 and filler just cuz. And the Terminators fill a niche for shooting that like we still need functional shooting to be able to spawn Bloodletters. And I mean, they get 6 shots a piece on their combi bolters, right? You're potentially putting your what? You're putting 48 plus the 2 Reaper chain cannon shots downtown. That is almost reliably picking up a scout squad. Even with -1 to hit, because they have full rerolls to hit, you will still just lift something like a scout squad or an intercessor squad and be able to go bloodletters, which is going to be sick.
Yeah.
Gortrak probably is not using this detachment because I think Gortrak offers almost nothing to Terminators other than maybe 5 in a Land Raider.
Yeah, you see 5 months in Land Raiders sometimes, but that's also a bit of an anti synergy. I mean, the one strat that we've seen is an anti synergy with that because, of course, if you're running 5 in a Land Raider, they get Lance out of that Land Raider anyway, so +1 to wound won't make much of a difference. There's still value in it, and we're seeing some successful lists running 1 or 2 5 mans. It's something you could consider. I think if you're running a regular Gore track list, though, it is much more likely that you're going to consider the final of our 3 detachments
Yeah.
in the faction focus.
Vessels of Wrath. Now we have seen a pretty it has been a trend now that most of the Grotmist attachments are going away or getting reworked. Vessels of Wrath was without a doubt the least played detachment, I think, for us. Maybe arguing with Cult of Blood. I think Possessed Slaughterband outplayed it a little bit sometimes.
I think
But
so.
Vessels of Wrath is gone and reworked, and it is now a one detachment point detachment that we can bring with our other detachments. And we see Cleave returning. So when a friendly World Leader's character unit, excluding epic hero units, so Sad Karn, Sad Angron, is selected to fight, that unit's character models melee attacks have Cleave 1 or +1 AP.
It's
Just,
amazing.
just generically good. I mean, your Mo goes to AP 3 or gets an extra attack. Same thing with your Juggernaut Lord.
Same thing with
Uh,
Demon Prince, which
Demon Prince.
always struggled for AP. Making them AP3 is, oh, it's such a help, such a help for them.
And you just get it too. Like you're just AP 3 Demon Princes now, right? And that's one thing to contextualize, right? This may not seem like much. It's like, oh, what do you mean just the Moes or just the Demon Prince get the buff? Because in Vessels, you'd get the whole squad would get the extra buffs, right? These are free rules. You're probably gonna just get to play Gore Track, and your Moes are just better, right?
Yeah,
Like, there's nothing to complain about here. It is just free rules. And blast melee Moes is really funny, or extra AP, which is probably what you're going to be taking more often than not. Also really good. As Josie pointed out, Demon Princes. Your Slaughterbound is going to have a little bit extra AP or even cleave. A Blast Slaughterbound is hilarious, but realistically, it always felt weird that the Slaughterbound was worse AP than Exalted. Well, now he doesn't have to feel left out. Getting into the enhancements, Arch Slaughterer, probably the funniest enhancement in all of World Leaders, just conceptually. World Leaders model only in your command phase. You can use this ability. If you do, you have every Blessings of Khorne until the start of your next turn.
it's so, it's just hilarious. It's not even necessarily that good, but
I
it's
don't think
so
it's good, but it is
funny.
funny, right? Like, how often are you like, I needed the reroll charges and the pile consolidates 6 and like it just gets out of hand. I mean, it's still good. I just don't think it's you don't have to take it.
No, it's nice to have. It would be sad if it's not taken because it is almost too funny to not take.
Yep. And last but not least, for 1 CP, even you can be in Berserker Warband if you're not. That's exactly what it is. You get to pick a
Yep.
character model, non-epic hero. You're a Berserker Warband, just on that one character. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty weak as strats go. Maybe like if that pushes your Demon Prince over the edge to be +1 to wound, and you want it to have
Yeah,
+1 attack.
sometimes it'd be +2 to wound, and at that point, that's probably the only point where we consider spending it. In all honesty, if
Yep.
it's
This is
that
not
bit of a break point.
this is not worth spending. I think this is just kind of a you can brush the strat off on something like a Mo. Going to +1 to wound on one model is rarely worth it unless you are desperate to kill whatever's in front of you. I could see something on like this on a Demon Prince would be pretty good. Or again, pushing a Slaughterbound to strength 11, so it's wounding a knight on 4s, maybe, right? But or strength 10, so you're wounding a knight on 3s. Like I said, +2 to wound. That would be the situations where you just need that knight dead. But
Yeah, and there are times there are combos. So if I mean, it's a very obvious slam dunk to run this in Gore track. You get lance on those things as well. If going from strength 10 +1 to wound to strength 12 +1 to wound often means you go from wounding stuff on 4s to 2s. And at that point, okay, yeah, I'll pop this Nuzlocke Bomb when I really want to kill a Land Raider or any tank I want to kill. Really, it's fine, and it's one of those strats that is worth remembering exists, but you will find yourself going entire events without using it.
yep, I think this is a panic button kind of a strap. But generically, Vessels of Wrath, I think it's probably the least like build altering. I would say that this is the detachment where if you're going to be playing Gortrak, your list doesn't have to change and it just gets better, right?
Yes.
Or same thing if you're playing Possessed Slaughter Band, right? All of your Slaughter Bounds just got better, right? Godspeed to the people playing Possessed Slaughter Band. Because the other two detachments really are not for you. This is the one that you're going to be using.
Yep.
Um, and sorry to all my Vessels players out there. Now you got to play Gore Track or something else. Because I'm assuming you're playing Vessels because you don't like Warband, which is perfectly valid. At this point, even I'm tired of Warband. But it's exciting to see that we have, in my opinion, the ones that stick out to me, and it's now trademarked, not really actually, by James, and he said we had to mention this, even though I said it, but he's gaslighting everybody. I'm really excited for the Demonators. That is probably where I'm going to be coming out the gate, is playing 20 Terminators in a KDK shell with a lot of Bloodletters and Scarbrand, and maybe some extra goodies in there. Josie, what are you most excited for?
I mean, I'm not excited for Vessels plus Gortrak, which I've decided will be called Vortrak. You will never stop me.
Oh,
That's the simple one, but I think I'm genuinely interested in what I can do with Cult of Blood. There are some really interesting builds with a ton of Demon Princes because them getting extra AP is astonishing. But also you could forgo Demon Princes entirely, run two Lords of Skulls, and maybe the Demon Engine detachment is enough to boost Lords of Skulls to that point where they're genuinely worth considering again. I think there's some really spicy stuff, and even Terminators, frankly, it's a really nice support piece for Cult. Cult of Blood struggles to kill big stuff. Well, you know what? Can 5 or 10 Terminators with +1 to wound strat. There's a lot of support for the lesser played detachments. Apart from Possessed Slaughterband, I really don't know how. I struggle to worry about them, but that's fine. We'll come to
let's
tier
just
lists down the
let's
line.
just be happy that the other detachments have some more tools,
Exactly.
right? Let's
No
just be
one gets
happy for the
everything.
other one. No one, we can't have every detachment be playable. And will it be better than Berserker Warband, these combinations? Maybe. We'll have to see.
Maybe.
I am excited because this is just strict upgrades to those existing playstyles, like I said at the beginning of the video. Alternate playstyles. Berserker Warband's not getting any better from this, more than likely. And that's kind of okay, because I would prioritize World Leaders getting more build diversity right now, because it's a little stale. And here we are in the waiting room to see what the rest of 11th edition brings us. There will likely be big points changes, big core rules implications that we still haven't seen yet. So stay tuned. Um, of course, if you're interested in some of the builds that we're talking about, James and I are going to be talking a lot about Demonators. Ryan is definitely very excited as well. He's back in on this. Josie will be looking at Cult of Blood, and I won't say it, but it starts with a V and ends with track. Um, so if you want to see some of those builds, please check out our Patreon. It's about a coffee a month. We appreciate the support. We can't do this without you guys. But regardless, check us out on Discord, and all those links are below. Josie, you got any closing statements?
I'm really excited for 11th edition. It's going to be an amazing time. And me and Brian both, by the way, have just found out recently that we will be meeting each other at the World Champs this year. With this, I think there's a solid chance that at least one of us, if not both of us, will be taking a serious look at World Eaters. And it's nice to be in a position where we can do that again because there was a real worry that we weren't for a bit.
Yep.
So I think
Uh,
it's exciting.
it is exciting. And of course, we have a lot more to see. We have to see how the other armies shake up. Maybe I know there is the biggest data slate they said is coming of the 10th edition. I guess it's not a 10th edition data slate, but we're going to see a massive rules overhaul for most factions because there are some rules that just don't work right now from 10th to 11th. They're going to have an eye on that. And then I imagine to see points going up and down for everybody. So with that, please stay tuned, guys. We definitely have more content coming out soon. Um, Stay healthy, stay safe, and kill, maim, burn.